I'm going to do a reading from my book, and it's chapter 1, which is a pretty short chapter. And what prompted this reading is an email from a viewer, Easy, and he's reading the book, and English isn't his first language, and so, like probably many of you, you are having to Google lots of the words that I'm using to ensure that you've got a good grasp on what I'm actually saying. And this is emphatic, even if you are an English-speaking person. If you're not sure, if English is your first language, if you're not sure about the meaning of some words, then it's imperative to ensure that you are at least familiar with the surrounding words, because as you'll discover from this book, when we look at words, words just mean other words. And there's a certain sector in this book where I look at some words which are supposed to mean something which people consider is kind of specific. But then when we look in the dictionary for the explanation of these words, well, they're shapeshifters, aren't they? Because if you ask what this word means, oh, it means this other word and this other word, and it can mean this other word. So what I've done in this book is, well, I've Googled what that other word means, and then what the other word means, and then possibly what the other word means. And so then I've written down all the explanations of what the initial word is supposed to mean, and all of a sudden I'm getting lost. I'm in a labyrinth. I have been accosted by a shapeshifter, and for the love of God, I can't discern precisely what a word means, because words just mean other words. You see, so this is the thing with language. We can never ever know anything definitively, specifically, because language doesn't take us there. Language takes us round and round in a circle. So what I did in one of these chapters, looking at these words, and these words were very, very important and powerful. After about 20 words, I ended up back where I started. So I went round in quite a large circle, that this word meant that word, and that word meant this word, and that word meant this word, blah 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 blah, and then you come back to this word means that word, and it's like, oh my goodness, look what we've just done there. We've gone round in a ring of about 20 words which end up back on that one word. It's like the Ouroboros eating its tail. And so you go, how can we ever really know anything using language? We can't. So what else is there to rely on? Experience. Does experience give us true knowledge? Not really. But I suppose it's the closest we can get. For instance, if you read about climbing a mountain, and it's really, really well written, you can go, whew, that was some experience. Great detail, and talking about all the emotional and psychological and physical aspects of climbing a mountain. If they do indeed, you see, how many people would engage in their psychology and philosophy, as well as the biology and the physical aspect of it? You know, how many people encompass all that? But I did in my experience of climbing a mountain. And so if you read a story of climbing a mountain, then you go, wow, okay, I think I kind of like got a decent handle on what it's like to climb a mountain. But you don't know it, because you've never had the psychological experience yourself, you've never had the physiological experience yourself, you've never suffered, you've never felt close to death, so you don't know what it's like to climb a mountain. So these are the things I get involved with people. So experience, well, experience, it can give us subjective knowledge, it gives us an experience, but the thing is, I could climb this Mount Kilimanjaro another, several times, and I would probably get a different experience every single time. So if you ask me what's it like to climb a mountain, what do? Do I group all those four sojourns together and give you a broad description of what it's like to climb a mountain? Or do I choose one of those particular sojourns and tell you specifically that climbing a mountain is like this? Because if I only had one experience of climbing a mountain, then I would tell you it's like this. But then if I had two, I'd be going, oh, well, the first one was really, really difficult and arduous and I felt close to death. But the second one's kind of a breeze, really. I don't know whether I was used to it and there's no fear involved because I knew I could do it and all this, but it was a very different experience. So, people, Chapter 1, Life's Meaning. Is there one? Do we need one to justify our existence? Now, this person, Easy, he is in full agreement with what I'm saying here, but he's got an issue because he can't see where the very poignant part came from. He wants to see where that part came from, because just to give the answer, it's kind of like telling people what it's like to climb the last 10 meters of the summit of a mountain. People want to know what the other part was like, don't they, to get things in perspective. So let me try and work through this. Recently I was reading a book titled Meanings of Life, in which the author pondered the many ways human beings endeavour to find meaning and purpose in their many sojourns here on planet Earth. Naturally, there are myriad ways in which we humans can consider that we have found some meaning, albeit very often only for a brief period. This meaning that we are fooled by is usually profoundly seated within the physical trappings of a materialistic, desire-inspiring illusion. But I ask the question, have we found real cosmic meaning? The meaning of all meaning. There are seemingly infinite ways to search for that ever-elusive matrixual-oriented meaning, which linguistically appears inseparably joined at the hip with other concepts such as purpose and validity. So when I speak of one of those concepts, I include the others from this point forward. Think for a few seconds about what these concepts mean to you. Meaning, purpose and validity. So when I'm speaking about finding meaning in life, I'm also speaking about finding purpose, finding personal validity, you see, because these words just morph into other words. So we've got to grab hold of a few of them, because if I just use meaning and I don't use validity and purpose, then maybe things won't be that clear. You go, well, what do you really mean by meaning? Well, I mean purpose. Okay, meaning and purpose. What else do you mean? Validity, to give yourself a valid reason for your existence. You know, I could, continue with many, many words, but then it would become preposterously difficult to comprehend what I'm really trying to discern and comprehend here and explain. So, this book, titled The Meanings of Life, endeavouring to find the purpose of our many sojourns. Well, how do you do that? Most people, they think, because they've been told this by society, that, well, it's finding your purpose in society whereby you're useful to people and you are valuable, so you've got validation and you've got purpose and you think you've got meaning with those things. But do any of those things bring you your validation or your purpose or your meaning subjectively? You can think you are serving other people, you're working for a boss and your job is kind of a little bit important, and people think that you're a valuable member of the team and you feel, wow, this is it. But then if you ask yourselves, well, is that it? Is that all I'm supposed to get from my life experience? I've heard there's more. What about God? What about feeling this bliss the Buddhists speak about? What about all the other things that I could find really, really satisfying outside of work and family and things like that, which I'm supposed to be enjoying? Find a partner, you get married, you get a mortgage, and the mortgage for 25 years, your marriage is supposed to be forever, and your job, you hope it's going to last, a good few years at least before you have to move on again. And so all those things are transitory, that's what I'm saying. And so we've not found cosmic meaning. Cosmic meaning is supposed to be that meaning beyond all meanings. And once you've found that meaning, then all the rest of these little pesky matrixial meanings don't really mean anything too much at all, because you've found something else. Now, people could say they've found God. Other people say you found yourself. You've found yourself now. You know what you are. You think you know what you are. You know what you like doing. You think you know what you like doing, and things like that. We can enter a certain period of our lives whereby we feel, I'm starting to get to know this thing and how it works, and I'm kind of comfortable now. So I think I found myself. People say that, don't they? Now, it seems a common trait for most folk that we would set our sights on one of the concepts mentioned above to find a meaning. So, at the very least, we can eliminate any accusation from our family or peers concerning our shameful dismissal and negation of the myriad of beautiful matrixial things we could and should be striving for to justify our precious allotted time in Humansville. Now, this is a very important section of this paragraph, because this Easy, he wanted to know where's the root of that? Where did that derive from? You've not explained it. And so, let me continue to the end here. Some awakened folk, incidentally, consider life to be an incredible gift. Most folk, by and by, can't seem to find any allegiance with that notion and struggle on through life's vicissitudes, random changes, mostly feeling that something somewhere, for some unfathomable reason, has a debt owed to them which they should have been furnished with a long time ago, which instantly would bring about their everlasting contentment. So when we're going through life, if we're married, well, that should be it then. Happy ever after, family, kids, good job, nice house. Okay, but there's still something empty inside. I'm still wanting. And so people are kind of like, well, God, universe, I've done what society has told me that I'm supposed to do. I've got the car, I've got the girl or the guy, I've got the kids, I've got the job, and I've got the house, I've got the holidays, but there's something that's missing, something that's still empty. And so people then, it's kind of like, well, where's my paycheck? I've done everything I'm supposed to do to be a good little worker in society. Where's my fucking paycheck? Because all this stuff, it isn't cutting it. It isn't giving me ultimate satisfaction. There's a longing, there's an angst. Is it a bigger car? Oh, it's probably a bigger house. What about more expensive holidays? What about an affair? Oh, that might be it. Okay, so I've got my staple diet, but then what if I eat just a bit of fun foods? Okay, so then you have an affair, and then, it seems to rock your boat for a while, but then it's kind of like, do I need another affair? Oh, maybe a boat. A boat! People talk about boats. Let's get a boat. See if that does it. And all these things, it doesn't do it, people. It doesn't do it. And so we think that we're owed something via the cosmos. Well, fucking hell, I've done everything. Now, surely I should be satisfied from that. But invariably not. So, a peculiar a particular entitlement that their individuated life should in many ways be much more conducive to happiness than it invariably is. They feel deeply that something is amiss, that something is missing, and there is a hole in their life that cannot be filled. Little are they aware that their spark of infinite God consciousness, which was magically gifted to them, is the gift they haven't yet gotten around to unpacking and appreciating for the magnificence that it demands. So what they are overlooking, what everybody's overlooking, is the gift of life, the gift of consciousness. And when we settle down deep within and we find the kingdom of God, we find the Buddhist bliss, that state of deep and rich inner peace, which is so satiating when we're there, but then when we come back out again to the ego, it's kind of like, I've got to contend with all this human stuff now. I've got to go and put some fuel in the car, I've got to go shopping, got to take the kids to the park and this, that and the other, taking me out of the kingdom of God. Look, having kids and a wife and all these things, you know, on one level, it's kind of great, isn't it? But those things don't satiate the soul, people. They don't penetrate to the deepest extremities or parameters of human soul. We need something else. We need a spiritual connection. Some people find it in religion. They think they find it in religion, but I swear that they've not found it. They absolutely haven't found it. All they've found is self-foolery. They are kidding themselves. They cling on to faith and they pretend that they know God and they believe in God, but all they've got is this illusory, empty word of faith. They don't actually know God. And I've met so many Christians and Muslims that when you start to probe deep inside their psyche, it's very, very apparent that they don't really understand the Bible or the Quran. They can't say that they really know God. I mean, they say, well, who does know God? I mean, it's just like, you know, it's an idea. You know, I believe that there is a God and, you know, that Jesus maybe was the Son of God, but I don't know about whether he walked on water or whether he rose the dead and all these sort of things. Or some people go, oh, absolutely, if it's in the Bible, then it's true. So I'm going to go back here now and I'm going to address what Easy wanted me to address. It seems a common trait for most folk that we should set our sights on one of the concepts mentioned above to find meaning, purpose and validity. So at the very least, we can eliminate any accusation from our family or peers concerning our shameful dismissal and negation of the myriad of beautiful matrixial things that we could and should be striving for to justify. Now, I'm going to read that again so it really settles in. It seems a common trait for most folk that we should set our sights on one of the concepts above, meaning, purpose and validity. So at the very least, we can eliminate any accusation from our family and peers concerning our shameful dismissal and negation of the myriad of beautiful matrixial things we could and should be striving for to satisfy our precious allotted time in Humansville. Some awakened folk incidentally consider life to be an incredible gift. Most folk by and by can't seem to find any allegiance with that notion and struggle on through life's vicissitudes. Now, this bit, which is the bit in question, it says here, so at the very least, we can eliminate any accusation from our family or peers concerning our shameful dismissal and negation of the myriad of beautiful matrixial things we should and could be striving for. Now, in the matrix, in societies, we are offered the carrot of meaning, purpose and validity. How do we obtain those? We obtain them through the things I've just spoken about, through finding a partner and having kids and buying that wonderful home and having that satisfying job. And so, when we stop doing that, then our family and friends around us are asking themselves, what the fuck? What are you doing? Hang on, hang on, hang on. Because for me, for instance, I used to be a high flyer. I used to own successful businesses, and I was never short of any money, driving the big car, had the lovely houses and all the holidays and all that. But then, when I had my spiritual awakening with my egoic implosion, I let all of that go. Every single bit of it. Ultimately, I just spent everything and sold everything until in the end I was living in a rented apartment on state benefit. And then family members would come round and go, what the fuck are you doing? What's that you're reading? And I'm like, oh, it's just, this, that and the other. What is it? Show me. And this is like my sister. So she'd be looking at the book, and then she'd be looking at the back, and she'd be trying to find out what sort of poison it was. And as you say, those videos you're making, all those people, they're all devils. What are you doing? Mixing with all those devils, sitting in bed sits, and just, watching their lives fall away in front of the computer, this, that and the other. You've let everything go, and where are you going now? Well, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, you don't get it. You're not getting it, because all those things didn't do it for me. I had all those things, they never did it for me. Now I'm reading these books because it seems that I'm on a path, because I've had some sort of a thing go on in my head, an awakening, an enlightenment, whatever, which of course your family and friends don't grok. They don't comprehend that sort of speak. And so when you then, the only thing that you want to do is to meditate, be alone, and read, to try to discover what's gone on within you, what's gone on in your mind, what's gone on in your body, why did you let everything go, why didn't it satisfy you, this, that and the other. So what I'm saying here is that so at the very least we can eliminate any accusation from our family or peers. I'm saying that if we are showing our friends and our families and our partners that our meaning is premised on purpose and validity within the matrix, and we are reaping the dividends for it, and we're showing progress, and people around us are going, oh, my brother or my son or my husband has got this and he's that, and oh yes, they love all that. But then if you fall away from that and you don't have all those things anymore, people go, oh, so what's Aaron doing? I haven't seen Aaron for ages. Then also it's kind of like, I've not seen him. I've been really busy. They don't know what to say. They don't go, well, he's fucking lost it. He is sitting in an apartment. He lost all his friends. He doesn't see anybody anymore. He doesn't go anywhere anymore. He's got no money anymore. He doesn't want to work anymore. All he does is reads these old dusty books. It's kind of like, I don't know what the fuck's going on with that guy. And so therefore then, I'm sorry that you're perfectly right. I didn't explain what this very, very poignant and important part is. So, just to read it again, it seems a common trait for most folk that we should set our sights on one of the concepts mentioned above to find meaning. They think that that's what we have to do. They don't know about the spiritual meaning. And when you have an egoic implosion and a spiritual experience that just makes you drop tools, you just drop tools and you just walk away from your job. You walk away from your family. You walk away from your partner. You have just got to deal with it alone, because nobody around you is going to be able to get inside your head. And if you have a very, very understanding partner or family members who know a little bit about the spiritual realm and meditation and whatever, then they'll have a little bit of a understanding with you. But what we go into is so deep, it's so profound, that we just have to go away into isolation until we can work it out. apart, put the pieces together, and it took me 7 years before I even started to go back out again, and then a further 6 or 7 years before I felt that I was actually free from that level of intense study and reclusion. But it appears now, after 16 years, I'm still in an apartment on my own. I'm still without a partner. I will never ever work again. I will probably never ever drive again. And so it appears that I haven't ever really come out of it. And so my sister and I, we completely don't get along anymore. She thinks she knows me. She hasn't got a clue who I am. You know, particularly after this 16 years, she knew somebody 20 years ago. And that person 20 years ago, you know, was pretty straightforward. Now what this person's morphed into is very, very complex. And so she's very angry about losing her brother and what's gone on. It's something to do with those devils on YouTube and those evil books that he's poisoned his mind with and all that sort of stuff. So what I'm saying here is that if we fall away from that, then as far as they're concerned, we don't have anything to justify our actions by. And so I'm going to read it one more time in its entirety now for clarification. So, it seems a common trait for most folk that we should set our sights on one of the concepts mentioned above to find meaning. So at the very least we can eliminate any accusation from our family or peers concerning our shameful dismission and negation of the myriad of beautiful matrixial things. So to get involved with that sort of stuff, then we alleviate ourselves of the accusation. And if we had some of those things, then we'd be doing what everybody's supposed to be doing. But when we don't do that anymore, then we become a great anomaly. And this anomaly, it falls out of society. And so now, as far as my sister's concerned, I can't justify to her what I'm doing with my life, because she doesn't comprehend that. She can't get her head around it. Before, I was a high flyer with my own businesses and posh cars and big houses and all this well-to-do and social and, you know, all the rest of it. Now, as far as she's concerned, I don't exist anymore. That person she knew didn't exist. And that's very, very difficult for lots of people to contend with. So, from reading your email, Easy, I'm grokking that, because you're foreign, English isn't your first language, I'm understanding that you have had some sort of awakening, and you've gone into a bit of reclusion, and family members are maybe prompting you, prodding you, trying to extricate yourself out of what they consider is the mire, because it is a form of depression, and I don't mean depression like the clinical sort of terminology for depression. Oh, that person's depressed. Oh, and you know, nothing's worth living for. No, it's more like a subduing. For me, it was like a subduing. I wasn't depressed. I just, instead of firing on 4 cylinders, I was just firing on 1. I was just ticking over. I never had the energy to live life in the abstract. I only had the energy just to do what I was doing, just to read, just to read. And I used to read, you know, for years and years, just lying in bed, 12 hours a day, reading. That's all I did for many, many years. Forced myself to go to the gym for 1 hour. When I was there, I was just going through it, you know, on small weights, and between sets I'd just be staring at the ceiling. Didn't want to be there, but I just kept pushing myself. And then I would go out walks every day for 1 hour around the countryside, and in the winter time, of course, pissing down with rain, freezing cold, dull and horrible. I just used to walk, and I'm thinking about the things I've been reading, of this and the other, and slowly I started to heal inside, you know. I started to feel brighter. I didn't know what on earth I was doing for the first 3 years, reading all of this deep psychology and philosophy and all that. I found it immensely curious, and I just go and buy all these second-hand books and just keep reading, and I'm like, what the fuck? The fuck is this shit? But slowly, book after book, I started, that one fits with that one, that one fits with that one. This mentions this and that mentions that. Alright. I started to get a little bit of a glimmer of light. Just a little bit of flicker of light here and there. Kept me going. And then things just got brighter and brighter. And in the end it's kind of like, wow, now I get it. Now I know why I was reading all that stuff, because Spirit needed me to comprehend that stuff. It needed me to work all that stuff out, because that's how I am, a very analytical sort of person. I needed to go through all this logic and rational thinking, and to put myself in a position whereby I know exactly why and how I'm here now. Where am I going? Don't know. Let's see if these next books will tell me. And that's how it's been, and the universe keeps placing book after book after book in my path. And I'm like, well, I'm still on the path. I'll be on it forever. Why am I on it forever? I don't know. I'm doing this. I wrote that book. I can't really even believe I wrote that book. I look at this now and I'm like, wow, you know, this book, people, it took an enormous amount of concentration, reading over every single paragraph again and again, and changing the words and changing the structure. And then, you know, you've got like 10, 15, 20 pages in, and it's kind of like, no, I've got to do all that again. I've got to completely restructure it, because it's not giving the impression that I want to give. And so it's really disappointing when you got to scrap 20 pages. But hey, you just go, it is what it fucking is. And then you get bang into it and you find that constitution, and it's kind of like, Spirit, Cosmos, okay, I'm doing it all right, I'm fucking doing it. And I did it 5 hours a day for 8 solid months. And you know, it was all from memory. Every single bit of it was from memory. I never had to pick up any books and try and find this and find that. It was all from memory. And then when I wanted to speak about Plato's Cave, or Descartes, or Darwinism, or fucking Nick Bostrom simulation, whatever, then I would just consult their main paper, and then I would take an excerpt of the main body of that and put it in the book, because I needed you to know that what I've been going through is exactly what this person said here, exactly what that person said there. And so you don't have to just take it from me. Here's some brilliant people, so-called brilliant people throughout the ages, and so I put my story next to their work, and then it should give my story a bit more credence, because you know then that, wow, some great people have said similar things like this hundreds of years before. Because you see, when we're on this spiritual path, people, it's pretty well, you know, I wouldn't say, it's not exactly the same. Of course, with all people it's different, but we're all heading in the same direction. So you could have thousands of people down below, but they're all heading up like on a pyramid towards one focal point, which is the light. We're heading towards the light, and we're going to get there by whatever avenue is presented to us. So I hope that has explained that easy. And so if you are feeling that people are thinking that you no longer justify your existence because you're not involved in all the things you're supposed to be doing, then maybe you'll just try to tell them what I've told you here, that you are pursuing another avenue, and that avenue, albeit at the moment in time it isn't showing too many auspicious signs. It's not showing people around that, wow, you've got a wonderful life. No, they think you're ill, they think you're depressed, they're worried about you, they don't know whether you might harm yourself or something like this, because you're acting very unusual. From the high flyer that you used to be, now you're this recluse guy that doesn't answer phone calls and turns down any invitations to go out and doesn't want people coming round and all that sort of thing. Yes, we turn into the proverbial recluse. And so we can't justify our existence premised on these trinkets of the matrix, but ultimately when we get more learned, we can start to articulate ourselves and saying that, well, what you've got now inside is a peace, and it's a vastness, and you feel very, very content. You don't want for anything else. In actual fact, to have all these other things would be very, very frustrating, and it would take you back out again into that horrible kind of matrix. You can't even work out why you enjoyed it in the first place, because we were programmed into it, you see. And so when we find this space inside, in our bodies, in our hearts, in our minds, in our consciousness, then our lives completely change. The goals that we head for are not tangible. They're not matrixial. You don't need any money for them. You get them via walking in nature, you get them via meditation, you get them via reading and listening to educated people speaking about all these different sorts of things. So you see what's happened, people. I've read one page, and so that's how this whole book is. It would just take an enormous amount of time. Well, it would take you a minimum of 30 hours to read this book off the bat. But if you're really going to understand what the context is, then you have to do what, like this person Easy is doing. He's looking at it and he's asking, what does that mean? And that's what I've asked you all to do. Because just go, oh yeah, beautiful matrix, purpose, meaning, validity. Well, meaning, and no, you've got to look at it. What is your purpose? What is purpose? Look in the dictionary. What is purpose? What does this word mean? What is it to invalidate yourself, or to give yourself validation? What are these concepts? How do we work them through? And then, meaning. Some people impose a certain meaning on us if we are useful in some way. But if we're not useful to them in any way, then they think we're meaningless. But are we meaningless? Well, as far as they're concerned, we're meaningless. But as far as we're concerned, we've found meaning in another realm, haven't we? We haven't found it in the trinkets out there, chasing all that paper and all those illusions. We found it in something lasting. Because once you've found the core essence of what you are, that never goes away. That's infinite. And so that's infinite treasure. And so, ladies and gentlemen, what we are actually looking for, what I'm always saying in my videos, is that the human being, from being cosmic spirit, entering into the human avatar to have a human experience, coming out of the womb into the world, having all these crazy experiences, and somewhere deep within us, maybe everybody, maybe not everybody, but some of us deep within us, we know that we're not really this body. We're not really from here. I think there's more. I think I'm something else. Intuitively I feel that I'm something else. And what's this voice? Or voices in our heads? Who's that? Who's that talking? This person, that person? What's going on? What about these feelings? This thing called intuition? What about God? What about spirituality? Things like that. Well, when you open yourselves up to them and investigate, you start to go, oh, all right, that's interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I hope that gave you something. And if anybody else has got any parts of the book that they've read and they would like an explanation on, then just drop me an email or put it in a comment.